good.
Welcome to Potter Familias, coming to you from Fairhope, Alabama. It's the intro. This was fun to record. These little intros were really fun to record. I'm not gonna lie.
You still have a bass?
I do. In fact, not only do I still have a bass, but I got a much nicer bass as a gift.
When? From who?
From well, I don't know if you'd want me to say, but a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I've got this bass, and it's really nice, and I never use it." So it's
when we stop recording, you're gonna tell me?
Yeah, I'll tell you. But
cool.
it's a nice Fender Jazz bass, and I showed my brother-in-law.
Fretless?
No. Just a regular bass. It's just the shape and the pickups on it are what make it a jazz bass. But I showed my brother-in-law, James, who's a bass player, and he was like, "So how much do you want for that?" And I was like, "I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. Thank you very much." Because he's got a really nice P bass, which is the other really famous Fender bass that he uses all the time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I got sunburned today.
How'd you get sunburned?
I was up on a lift, pressure washing. And
that's you that's been cleaning the side of the gym.
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was the boys.
No, they're not allowed because they're not over 21.
Fair.
So insurance-wise, and you're 50 feet.
Liability and stuff.
Yeah, you're 50 feet in the air, so.
Right.
But I got up there, and the first thing I thought is, oh, no, I got direct sun just burning me. I should at least wear a hat. But I didn't want to get down.
You got to get one of those long sleeve sun shirts. Like, have you heard Jim Gaffigan talk about those?
I have them. I mean, I have
so do
one
I.
that could have worked.
I have no shame or dignity anymore.
But you're 50 feet in the air. You don't want to come down. You got You got a rhythm going.
But
you got momentum.
How long would that have taken, though?
It doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm here for you. I'm sorry you got sunburned.
Shut your face.
What? I'm sympathetic.
I don't think.
Oh, geez, I'm so sorry. All right, you want to do the podcast now?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
that was kind of mean. I apologize.
Nowadays, everybody's talking about people getting canceled.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Okay, so
like, you're not talking about shows.
No. That's always been a thing. The new type of getting canceled is someone says something publicly in a public space, and normally it's on Twitter. So some celebrity will say something on Twitter that enough people find controversial to where they will post screenshots of what this person said to all their friends and make a thing out of it, make it known that they said this thing that they disagree with, and sort of explain why they disagree with it. And what's happened is that if enough people don't like something that you post publicly, they can actually make you lose your job.
Wait, what?
That's what it means by being canceled. So if somebody says
what
something,
do you mean they can make you lose your job?
There are these mobs of people on Twitter especially, but also in other places on the internet, where if enough people see something that you wrote and they think it's controversial or they don't agree with it, then they can humiliate you and sometimes get the person fired, or at least, like in the case of movie celebrities, they'll sometimes get them written out of TV shows and get them fired.
What are these people saying that is causing that kind of reaction?
Most of the time, they're doing things like,
I'm in the KKK.
Well, no, not nearly that unsubtle. So one of the recent ones, or let's go back a few years, because there's lots of that kind of thing that's been happening here recently. But let's go back to Kevin Hart. So Kevin Hart, because of some stuff that he said during a comedy special, which I'm not going to repeat, but he said some things that were kind of controversial.
No, wait, but you have to give me more detail.
Well,
kind of controversial doesn't tell me anything.
Right, but I also don't want to say the stuff that he said.
But you got to give me some kind of genre. What are we talking about?
So it had to do with, from what
I want to kill puppies.
No.
What did he say?
I think it had to do with making a joke about transgender and or gay people.
Okay. He's a comedian, though.
Right. But hang on. This is what we're going to get into. So he was canceled in some ways. He didn't have like a significant loss of work or like have his career ruined, but he was supposed to be the host of the Oscars that particular year that this happened, and they revoked his invitation to host. No, I'm serious. You don't remember this? This was a big deal because Kevin was like on this meteoric rise as a comedian and actor.
Yeah, I don't know these things.
And it was a big deal because they were like, hey, you know, he's a comedian.
He's a comedian.
Right.
Isn't he supposed to make fun of people?
So this is a big thing that's happening now. There's a lot of comedians that are talking about, because of this cancel culture stuff that happens, they are afraid to tell certain jokes because they think if they say certain things out loud, even if it's clear that they are joking, that there will be a mob of angry people on Twitter who will shout them down and tell the whole world, this person holds this opinion and you should be upset about it.
Come on.
And that's really what it sounds like. It's not even like a moral thing.
Why is everyone so quick to be offended?
Because they have nothing better to do.
Really?
Seriously, I think that's what it is. I
watch something on Netflix, for crying out loud.
I think that there's a lot of people who see this as an opportunity to exercise power they did not have before. And by the way, I think a lot of these folks that are doing this canceling of people actually think they're doing something good.
Why is it good if someone loses their job?
Because they think that person deserved to lose their job because they hold an opinion that's wrong. Glory. And by the way, I know people both in the music world and in the just online world of people that I grew up with or went to school with or whatever who actually express this. They say, if you hold certain opinions, then I will dox you, basically. I will reveal your personal information to the world. That's what it means. It means to reveal your personal information for violent purposes.
Wait.
Not like physical violence necessarily, but they'll say, this person lives here. If you walk by their house, like,
whoa, don't be giving somebody's home address.
That's what they're doing to a lot of people.
That's not cool.
It's not only not cool, it's inventing this whole new world of like what's legal and what's illegal in terms of what you're allowed to do on the internet, because there isn't a consistent system of laws in place that regulates that. So you technically can't get into legal trouble for revealing someone's address publicly. At least not that I'm aware of. If you're a lawyer, then you can correct me on that. But I don't think
throw
that
it in the comments.
Yeah, I don't think that you can. I mean, maybe you can be sued, like a civil suit or something, but I don't think there's any federal law.
Yeah,
that
I guess it's not libel
if
you're telling the truth.
Right, and they could argue.
This really is
and
their
the person who is saying it was libel would have to prove it's libel. They'd have to prove that it's not true.
Wow. That's kind of scary.
It is. People have a lot of power. Like there's these mobs on the internet where if a lot of people agree about something and they're willing to publicly humiliate someone, they can get them fired a lot of times.
Man. All right, so when someone's canceled, like give me a more recent one.
Well, there was that woman who took and this one I think was justified. So there was that woman who took video of, or she was shouting at a black couple that was in the park, and they didn't have masks on or something, or they weren't social distancing, or she thought they weren't. And so she was coming up and yelling at them and recording them with her phone. So the guy starts recording her. And so she starts freaking out and threatening to call the police. And then eventually she does, but she got in huge trouble for doing that with the internet. Call the police
for what?
Call the police because there was this couple that was apparently doing something wrong. And they weren't. They were in a public place eating lunch. And
I'm confused.
So this woman,
why would you go up and yell at somebody unless they're like beating their kids or something?
Supposedly it was racial. Supposedly. And I don't know whether or not it was, but that's what. No, hang on, no, don't make that face.
No, it's just dumb.
You don't seriously.
You don't go up to people, record them, and yell at them unless they are seriously like they're committing arson.
I agree, and this is the cool thing about the internet, right? So this is like the canceling people might be considered a negative. I think in a lot of cases it is a negative thing when that happens to someone.
Right.
But having said that, this was an instance where a woman who wouldn't necessarily have had any negative consequences for what she did because she technically wasn't breaking the law, now has had a lot of negative consequences for her actions.
She called the police for real?
Yeah.
So did the police come?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because if they did, what would you say to the police?
Do you know how often this happens, though?
These people were eating lunch.
I read stories
They
all
should be
the time
arrested.
of people calling the police on people who are not doing anything wrong.
Okay, already, before police started getting killed, which is horrible.
Yes.
God bless all of our police. Thank you so much for protecting us.
Yeah.
I love it that I can call 911 and you all come. Thank you. But before all that mess, I just feel bad for them because they have to come for these types of calls.
Yeah. Well, you know people
They're
that are
eating
cops
lunch.
who used to be in the youth group and stuff, and
Yeah.
they talk about this all the time. They're like, yeah, like half the things I have to go do are people doing that, basically.
What a nightmare.
Yeah. So you get used
So
to it, I assume.
she was canceled. is
She
what
was
you're talking
canceled and
about.
probably deserved to be
Okay.
canceled.
All right.
Now, granted, I wasn't there, but according to the information that I've read, and I actually watched the video of her yelling at this couple where the guy was like, can you please leave us alone?
What was she saying?
So she was just screaming at them that they weren't supposed to be there and that they needed to wear masks.
We're
and
supposed
blah,
to be
blah, blah.
where?
Weren't supposed to be in this park.
In a
apparently.
park?
In a public park. Yeah. Again, that's why they said it was racial, because they were looking around and they're like, there's lots of other people here, and we're the only black people. Why are you singling us out?
I'm sorry.
But I mean, how often do you hear about, remember when we talked about this a few episodes ago, how often do you hear about people who are like, yep, if you walk through the wrong neighborhood and you're black, then people will call the police.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens a lot.
It's
And
sad.
there's no reverse of that, because
You could wait. Time.
There's
You
no
can't
reverse
say
of
there's
that
no reverse of that.
in the same way, because
Maybe-
there was a neighborhood that was close to our neighborhood when I was growing up, within walking distance, that I was uncomfortable going into. And it was primarily a black neighborhood. Now, that wasn't the reason that I was uncomfortable going there. It was because people had guns sticking out of their pants. I remember the one time that
That is scary.
we walked through there, and I was just like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. And I was walking, because we were looking for the ice cream truck. You remember that? We went out, and I was like, we went in this part of the neighborhood that I was really uncomfortable walking through.
I do.
It had nothing to do with the color of the people's skin. It was the fact that everybody was looking at us like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And we were like,
I used to jog through a neighborhood that people oftentimes said, don't go into that neighborhood. And I would jog in the middle of the day. And I was fascinated by how many people were home in the middle of the day.
mm-hmm.
Because I'm looking around going, wow, there's a lot of people home
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
And immediately I thought, man, they all have night jobs.
Well, it's a socioeconomic thing for real. So I guess there is kind of a reverse in that way. But the
I don't think they called the police on me,
No.
but I certainly got stared down. I got questioned a couple
The stereotype is that if a black person walks through a affluent white neighborhood, then someone will call the police. And a lot of times that is
okay,
true.
but hang on.
Yeah.
Let's also say that there's got to be more information than just the color of their skin.
Well, okay, fair.
Like
yeah.
there's a guy that walks down our neighborhood that looks like he's out just walking, like he's exercising. And I could care less about the color of his skin. And this is very judgmental also. I'm looking at his clothes.
Is he black?
I think so.
Okay.
Dark skin, but I don't know if he's black or Indian.
If you asked him, do you think he would say like, yeah, people have done that to me before?
I don't know. I've never struck up a conversation with him, but I don't give him a second glance because he looks like he belongs.
But the fact that you don't do that doesn't mean that there aren't people that do that on a big level, right? So that's a common thing. And the reason why everybody went nuts on the internet over this person, they called her a Karen, which is kind of a derogatory term for a middle-aged white woman who acts in a certain way. I don't use the term.
Where'd the name Karen come from?
I don't know. It started becoming an internet thing a few years ago where people would describe. It started.
But you see, we do pass judgment on externals.
Yeah.
And one of the externals for some people is skin color.
Yeah.
Like I drive a really old pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got 360,000 miles on it. And when I drive into some neighborhoods, I'll bet you people want to call the cops because it's looking sketch.
Okay, but that's not a skin color thing. That's looking at your truck.
but it's looking at the externals is what I'm talking about.
Right, but so this is the problem with that is there seems to, and we've talked about this a little bit before, there seems to be at some level and in some ways some racial prejudice that happens on a broad scale. Now, you may argue that it's justified, but I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't know if it is justified.
And I don't know either.
I just know that we prejudge everyone and everything.
Yeah, everybody prejudges everything. That's not the point, though. The fact is, if somebody is prejudging and their primary reason for prejudging is based on the color of the person's skin, that's a problem.
Well, I think even a lot of the prejudging can be a problem if we stay locked into it.
Right.
Like if I step out of the truck, you know, they're looking at it like, oh, man, we're going to call the cops because that truck doesn't belong in this neighborhood. And if I step out of the truck and I look like, oh, okay, that guy seems okay, and then people decide, let's not call the cops.
Right.
So just like the guy that walks by the house because he's exercising, I'm not concerned about him because he looks like he's exercising.
If you are not doing it, that's not the point, right?
Well,
so he looks fine to you and me.
It's part of the point.
Yeah, it is part of the point.
Because we want more and more people
right
to go, yeah, not a big deal. Person's just walking. Like, what's the big deal?
Right.
They don't have, as you said when we were going after the ice cream truck, they don't have a gun sticking out of their pants.
Yeah, that was scary.
Yeah.
But I was also, 14? So
you were thinking about the ice cream.
I was. And I was also really, really
So what
scared.
do we do then to not get canceled?
So I think it has more to do with choosing a time and a place carefully to share a controversial opinion in public where people can go back and screenshot it and then interpret it however they want to. Now, there are some things that people say that are justifiably controversial. They say things that I personally would never, ever say online.
Okay.
Things like, exposing their racial biases or prejudices, saying things like, I support this person who's in the KKK or whatever. And then there are things people say where they're like, on the flip side of that, I've seen friends of mine who don't know a lot of the opinions that I hold because I don't really share that with anybody, generally speaking. Hashtag millennials.
I was going to say, and you're doing a podcast.
Well, yeah, but I'm also being purposefully kind of vague about what I actually think about these things because I am in a position where it's like I'm a musician and I don't want to potentially lose work because the person who owns the venue that I'm going to go play at disagrees with me.
Right.
And that's not to say that they would necessarily disagree with me. It's just I want to pick my battles. I'm not worried about convincing everybody that my opinions are correct all the time. And I think that's what you have to do. So people are starting to learn this, right? Especially people who are a little bit older than millennials who have not grown up with the internet are realizing if I say this on Twitter, it's there forever. So they're being a lot more careful. And I think we should be a lot more careful. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't share your opinions and you shouldn't express what you believe, but you need to be careful about the time and the place that you choose to argue that your opinion is right.
Gotcha.
So that's what I think would help. And then that would result in fewer people getting canceled. But it seems like the people that want this to happen to others who post things that might be controversial or they think they're controversial, it seems like they are going to find things to be upset about no matter what. So if you don't want to get canceled, just don't publicly share your opinions that might be controversial.
Do you remember years ago when people talked about road rage and people were pulling guns in traffic and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I think now that's been transferred to the internet.
There's definitely a lot of rage there. That's for sure.
It's crazy how they're almost looking for an excuse to absolutely explode.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get canceled.
Neither do I. I would prefer not to. So I try to be a decent, upstanding person who doesn't hold any opinions that could get you canceled.
I think you hold plenty of opinions.
Yeah, let me be clear about that. I hold opinions that if I were to clearly and argumentatively express them on Twitter, that could potentially get me canceled. But that doesn't mean that
not
I think
because they're necessarily wrong,
or immoral, or even like, because I think a lot of times what's happening is people are just expressing what they think, but not clearly or not expressing it well.
Right.
Because there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of gray area in a lot of these things that people talk about. The world is not as black and white as people would have you think. And because of that, it's difficult to, in 240 characters or whatever it is you get on Twitter these days, it's difficult to clearly express a nuanced opinion because you only have time for a soundbite.
Right.
And then once you do that, it's out there forever and people can interpret it however they want. And you've seen how they'll make 6 posts in a row. And even then, it's like, well, you really would need like a chapter of a book to really clearly express what you're talking about. And if you can't do that, if all you know is the soundbite, you probably shouldn't be sharing that opinion anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. You haven't been canceled yet, though, right?
No, not that I know of. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if this episode was controversial enough to get me canceled.
Did you bring your guitar?
I did.
What you got for us?
So,
Hey, do you want any percussion?
yeah, you want to jump in?
Yeah.
Come on.
Can you grab that thing for me?
This is perfect because...
I can't get past you.
Here, I got it. Can I give you the whole thing? Or you just want the... Here. Look, you're not giving me... You didn't set this up beforehand.
Why would I want
Here,
the case?
let me get this for you, Father, with my left hand.
Well, look how much space I have. Why on earth would I want the case?
Why didn't you take the case off before you got in?
I don't know.
All right, I can't get this out. Yes, I can.
Do you remember that was in...
Look out, the equipment.
Because Philip had it at the door.
Yeah, I do remember that. All right, kicked it out of the way. Cool. This is our podcast, ladies and gentlemen. It's mostly us getting things in order. But it's fine. This is more authentic, right? You said you wanted authentic. This is authentic.
You're yelling at me about not taking my cajon out of the case.
I wasn't yelling.
And you weren't tuned.
I wasn't yelling. I didn't yell.
Oh, you raised your voice.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's permanently on the internet.
All right, this is called
Cancel.
Leave Me Alone. This is called Rain Makes Me Miss You. It goes like this. Sun ain't shining bright this morning. Weatherman said the rain is coming. Gonna be here soon. Makes me think of you. I swear she could stay in bed all day, wrapped in my arms with nothing to say, but I love you so. Feels like so long ago. Baby, I can't stop the tears, and now they're coming down. Something comes over me whenever I hear that sound, rolling with the thunder, softly on the roof. No matter what I do, rain makes me miss you. Rain makes me miss you. She used to be my shot of whiskey. These days only the real thing gets me feeling alright. Almost every night. When it's dry, I don't think of her much, but the clouds roll in and I long for the touch of her sun-kissed skin from way back when. Baby, I can't stop the tears, and now they're coming down. Something comes over me whenever I hear that sound, rolling with the thunder, softly on the roof. No matter what I do, rain makes me miss you. Rain makes me miss you. Well, I might move to California, or out to Arizona, where the sun shines all the time. Maybe then I'd be free, and and it wouldn't bother me when the rain fell from the sky. Baby, I can't stop the tears, and now they're coming down. Something comes over me whenever I hear that sound, rolling with the thunder softly on the roof. No matter what I do, rain makes me miss you. Rain makes me miss you. Rain makes me miss you. Makes me miss you.
Nice. You haven't recorded that one yet, have you?
No, not yet. Working on it, though.
All right. Thanks for listening to Potter Familias.
We'll catch y'all next time. Don't cancel us.